We've been talking about Eden, and I told you I'd forgotten my archaeological Bible several times, and I'm going to read you some things out of here. Don't ever be afraid to study medicine or archaeology or history. It's not going to go contrary to the Bible, if it's true. Not the Bible, but if it's true archaeology and etc. Genesis 2. The name Eden might have had one of two origins. Sumerian word Eden, which means steep or open field, or the identical Semitic word denoting luxury or delight. Of course, that's the avenue that we're going from. Now, how many of you can name some of the Hebrew lexicons? Brown, Driver, and Briggs. Okay, what else? Kohler and Baumgartner. Okay, Davidson and Gesenius. These are some of the Hebrew ones. You go look all of these different lexicons up, and I think Gesenius is one of the most in-depth one, even though Kohler and Baumgartner is in 2 volumes. Meaning luxury or delight. In Scripture, Eden is not only the name of the garden in which the first humans resided, but also a metaphorical representation of the garden of God, Jehovah's dwelling place. Isaiah 51:3, Ezekiel 28:12, 15, and 31:8 through 18. Now, Ezekiel 28, that was the first Eden, wasn't it? Who was there? The first Eden was what? That was, both of them are the throne room. The throne rooms. Okay, there's the throne room. That's Eden. Eden's precise location remains a mysterion. Genesis 2:8 indicates that the Lord planted a garden in the east in Eden. This suggests a location east of Canaan. In addition, the Bible associates 4 rivers with Eden: the Pishon, the Gihon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. Verses 10 through 14. The Tigris and the Euphrates are undoubtedly the 2 Mesopotamian rivers. Mesopotamia. What does Mesopotamia mean? Brother Abe, Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia. Sharon. Steve.
I'm thinking like a plane out.
What does Mesopotamia mean, Marilyn?
What was the beginning of
No. Tell me what it means. Okay. Brother, sister. The land between the rivers. Get that now. Mesopotamia. Land between the rivers. Meso is between, and Potamia, and that is what language? Mesopotamia. What?
Persian.
No. Mesopotamia. It's Greek.
No wonder.
All right, Greek. And it's from the Septuagint. Okay, that's where it comes from. The Tigris and Euphrates are undoubtedly the 2 Mesopotamian rivers that still bear the names today. The Gihon, possibly the Hebrew word to gush, and Pishon, usually understood to be a form of Semitic verb to spring up, to gush and to spring, okay, are more difficult to identify. A spring named Gihon waters in Jerusalem, but this location does not match the description of its route through the land of Cush. In verse 13, many scholars identify the Gihon as the Nile, since Cush is sometimes associated with Nubia, south of Egypt. If this association is correct, it is all but impossible to make sense of the description of Eden's location, since this region nowhere converges with the Tigris and the Euphrates. Now, what is wrong today, present tense, with the description of Eden in Genesis, the 2nd chapter? What's different?
Shift.
Huh?
Continents have shifted.
At this time, the earth was what? Name me the terms, 2 terms.
Pangea.
Pangea and what?
Uganda.
Godwana.
Godwana.
Pangea and Godwana, which means what?
One.
What? One land. Okay. Since the region nowhere converges with the Tigris and the Euphrates. Now, there wouldn't be any problem with that if the earth had been, the earth has been divided. We know that. That's what the scientists call this what? What do scientists, the geologists call this? The secular, what?
Plate tectonics.
The Great Divide.
Come on. The continental drift theory. Okay. And we know they all believed that the earth was one piece of earth, just like the Bible says. They got it right once. And then it slid apart. Others identify Cush as the land of the Kassites, east of the Tigris, also known as Cush. During the ancient times, this theory makes better geological sense. Finally, still other scholars posit that the Gihon and the Pishon were canals or tributaries of the Tigris and the Euphrates, possibly. Another challenge is determining the relationship of the four rivers to a single river that flowed through and watered Eden. Most scholars believe that they were downstream of the river of Eden, implying that all four rivers shared a common source and placing Eden in the northern Mesopotamia or Armenia. And Armenia is what? What's up there in Armenia?
Turkey.
Turkey. What's up there? What's that tall mountain? Mount Ararat, okay? And there's snow up there all the time, and waters are flowing. If you've ever watched the movie Grass, you will see those people crossing these glacier-fed streams, rivers, okay? Maybe that's where it came from, which would be coming from Mount Ararat, which is a very tall mountain. I can't remember right now how many. It's over 20,000 feet, I believe, where that mountain is up there. This supposition poses a problem, however, since the Tigris and Euphrates lack a common source to suggest that the four rivers were upstream of the river Eden. Makes some sense because the two rivers converge on southern Mesopotamia before emptying into the Persian Gulf. In this scenario, Eden may still, as the above, have been located in northern Mesopotamia or in the mountains of Armenia, from which the Tigris and the Euphrates spring. Another possible suggestion and setting would be have been southern Mesopotamia, where they converge and end. All right, that gives us a little bit. There's more down there to read, but I won't read that right now. Let's go into 2:15 now. We're talking about the garden. Talking about a whole different sphere of man's life now. A whole different... Before you can go on, when I was teaching, they were teaching me teaching techniques, or when I was going to school, they were teaching me teaching techniques. What do you do when you go to the class? What do you do for the first 15 minutes? Sometimes they say for the first half of the class. What do you do? Review. Rehearse what you learned before so you can go on the known into the unknown, okay? So what have we studied? That God created the heavens and the earth, and what happened? What happened after he created the heavens and the earth? When did he create the heavens and the earth? A long time ago.
Eternity past.
Okay? It was an eternity past sometime. A long time ago, okay? That's when he created the heavens and the earth. What happened in Genesis 1 and 2? Okay, the creation became corrupted and tainted with sin before man was ever on it. Okay? This is before man was ever on it. Who is the author of all sin and rebellion in the universe? Satan. What was his first name? What was his first title? Hillel. Okay, Hillel. Okay, and then what is the Latin? Lucifer. Okay. The name Luke or Lucifer today, hardly anybody names their kid Lucifer, but when you name him Luke, it's the same thing. Same name. It's like Jude and Judas, you know, and Judah. They're all the same name.
So you're saying that Luke in the Gospels was named
His name was Lucifer, yes. Yeah. It's a good name. Lucifer is a good name. What he became was bad. Hillel is a beautiful name. It means light carrier. All of that. It's Hebrew. Brother Roger, you want to come up there and put that up there? All right. All right. Now you guys are going to get with. The next time you're next. See, I taught you this once now. Then you're next. You know, if you listen to my old classes when I was teaching in the seminary, I didn't leave my students alone 1 minute. How you level?
I only read Spanish.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If
I think it's yod in there.
Okay.
Okay, something like that. That's like it. Thank you, Brother Roger. I always like to get my class going and getting some things. I want to know what you've learned. See there? Thank you. A+ for today. Okay. Now, so we have the universe created sometime back yonder, a long time ago. In when? In eternity past. What does bought sheath mean? Bought sheath. In beginnings. Plural. Now, almost all the Bibles translate it in the beginning. In the beginning. There is no "the" there, is there?
No.
There is a preposition which is what?
In.
Baith. Baith, which is in. Okay? All right. So in beginnings. In one of the beginnings, God created the heavens and the earth. And then the earth, she became formless and void. And then God reconstructed the earth, and He made the earth again that would produce life. A lot of the things that were on the earth, He caused the trees that were there to sprout forth, didn't He? And the grasses that were there, He caused them to produce again, because the earth had become formless and dark, and everything died. But when you give light and you give oxygen to it, what happens? Life begins again. Okay? Those things, those seeds and everything, you can take those 4,000, 5,000, 6,000-year-old seeds out of the pyramids of Egypt and out of those burial tombs over there, and you can plant them and put light and water on them, and they'll sprout. But they've been laying there dormant, see. However long those seeds and those things in the earth that laid there, we do not know. We don't have any idea. We have no way of telling that, period. Then we have God completely reconstructing the earth, and then He created man. And what is the best verse in the Bible to teach the Trinity? In all reality, what verse in the Bible would you use to teach the Trinity? Nope. Nope. Well, okay, we got Genesis. Genesis what, brother?
1:26.
Genesis 1:26. All right. So God created man in His image, and he's a primary creation of God. What did He create him out of? Ma. What? The same elements that He created the earth from. Not from the earth, but from the same elements. Why didn't He create him from the earth, Brother Roger?
It was cursed.
Because the earth was cursed. Aha. Brilliant. See there. Now you got it. You're getting it now. See, you're learning these things. We're going on to new territory. See, He didn't create him out of the dirt because the dirt had been cursed. Okay? When Cain offered an offering, he offered, first of all, he didn't offer the right amount. Number one. Okay, he didn't cut straight. That's what it said there in Hebrew. It didn't cut straight. He didn't divide correctly. He didn't tithe. Okay? But he offered an offering that was a cursed offering from the cursed earth. All right? A cursed offering from the cursed earth. And that was a cursed offering, so God was not going to allow that. False religion today tries to offer a cursed offering. And what is that cursed offering? In most religious societies. Good works. Good works. Is there anything good that dwells in man? Nope. So that is a cursed offering to God, too, isn't it? Okay. Let's go on now. So God created man in his triune image. Tell me how, Genesis 1:26. Number one, in his shadow casting likeness, in his spiritual likeness. Number two, in his blood flowing likeness. Number three, in his sovereign likeness, which is of the Father. We have the Spirit, we have Son, we have Father right there. All three of them. It starts out in his spiritual image, then in the Son, and then in the Father. His sovereign image. This is the mind of God. Okay? Now we have man in the garden. Going to be put in the garden. Man was created where? He was created outside the garden. Wasn't created in the garden. Did you know that? How many of you knew that? Man was created outside of the garden, not in the garden. You'd be surprised how much light the original scriptures in the Bible shed on theology. Man was not created in the garden. He was created outside the garden, and he was placed in the garden. And we're going to find that now. Genesis 2:15. Wayikach. Hadavar, Elohim, Et, Ha'adam, Wayani Shehu, Vegan, Eden, Levada, Uli Shamara. Okay. Wayakak. And he took. And he kept on taking. Look at that one. Conjugate that verb for me. Sharon.
Third person masculine, singular, vowel, consecutive.
That's right. A plus. You are brilliant students. I just love this. I just love this. Third person masculine singular. That's God because God did it, didn't he? Third person masculine singular. What gender is God? He's masculine. Okay. God is masculine gender. All right. Third person masculine singular. Cal, vowel, consecutive, and perfect. What's the cal stem, Brother Roger?
An action is continuing to take place.
Of simple active. Simple active is cal stem. How many verb stems are there in Hebrew? How many verb stems are there in Hebrew? How many? 7. All right.
What's cow? What do you call that? What is that?
Cal stem.
What is that?
Cal stem. That's simple active.
Simple active.
Cal stem. Simple active. Someplace over here.
Someday I'll learn what that means.
Okay.
Simple active means Pastor Jim.
Okay, we're going to do that right now. We're going to go and we're going to cover the seven Hebrew verb stems right now. Now write this down. Write it down in your books. Right on that page where you are. Just write it down. Okay? The first one, the simple active, is a cal stem. It was in old Hebrew grammars. This is called Kal. Now, how do you now? And then now it's called Qal. And it's the same thing as the Quran. Let's look at the Quran. Some people spell the Quran with a K, don't they? And others spell it with a Q. The same idea. It's the Semitic languages, okay? And we're going to look at the word katal. 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 I put a head on this snake. Katal. All right? Katal. Let's look at it. That means what? To kill. Now let's look at the 7 stems and let's see how they do. Simple active call stem, it means he killed. He killed. Call stem is he killed. The simple passive is the nifal, N-I-P-H-A-L. And the nifal is simple passive, and passive voice means what? How would we translate that? He was killed. Number 3, the intensive active. The intensive active, what stem is that? Come on, I'm not going to tell you. PL. PL stem. PL stem. And that would be translated, now here we have 1, 2, 3. We have the call, nifal, and PL now. PL, he was brutally killed, or he brutally killed, that is. He brutally killed. Okay, the intensive passive is the puol. He was brutally killed. And all of it's the same thing. It's got different vowel markings on it, okay? Every one of them. And then the intensive reflexive, number 5, is the hithpael, H-I-T-H-P-A-E-L, hithpael, and that he killed himself violently. Violently committed suicide, basically. Number 6 is hifil, H-I-P-H-I-L, the causative active, which he calls to kill. He calls to kill. Number 7, the causative passive is hophal, H-O-P-H-A-L. He was caused to kill. All right, there's you got your 7 stems. All right? Now, I've covered that a lot of times, but it doesn't hurt to go back and do it again. One more time, all right? Let's go on now.
Can I ask a simple question?
Yes,
I'm a
if it's simple.
guy or the most dumb or ignorant one in the class. What does simple active mean? And I know you're going to say he killed, but I'm saying, what does simple active mean?
Let's look at it in what we're doing right now. It means he killed. Now let's look at it. We got third person masculine singular, cal, vowel, consecutive, and perfect. All right, now here we have the word lekach. All right? Now let's look and see what it says here. Now how would we translate this? Third person singular is who? He. All right? And then cal stem, simple active, but it's vowel, consecutive, and perfect, which adds a little bit more to it. Now, Brother Roger, how would you translate that?
So, and he took.
He took and kept on
Continued to
taking.
take.
Continued to take. He took and just held it there. Okay? He took it and held it there. All right. You might go push that button, Sharon. All right. And he took, and then we have the word havavar there. See that word? 4 Hebrew consonants. Yod, Hath, Wow, and Hath. Which you cannot pronounce, can you? Everybody likes to say it's Yahweh or whatever, but how in the world are you going to say that? You got to put vowels in there someplace. We don't have any vowels to put in there because we don't know what was there. So we just say havavar, which was what they said way back yonder, which means what?
Jehovah.
Which means what? The word. Ha, the var, word. Okay? And in the New Testament, John 1:1 says, in beginning, the oldest verse and time element in the whole Bible, Marilyn, as you were trying to say a while ago, in beginning, kept on being. He kept on being third person singular and perfectly indicative active. In arche ein hologos. In beginning. In the beginning, and that's locative singular feminine, so that is one particular beginning, way back yonder when nothing but God existed in eternity past. Nothing else has ever been created, no angels, no nothing. No spirits, nothing. No world, whatever. In beginning, he kept on being hologos, which means the equivalent in Hebrew of hadavar, which is Jehovah. That made-up word that King James did. Okay? All right. And he took and kept on taking Jehovah Elohim. Why is the word Jehovah here now? Why is the word Jehovah used now in the second chapter?
Because man has been created.
What?
Because
Man has been created, and what?
there's a relationship.
The relationship between man and God is through Jehovah only. Only through Jehovah. There is no other man between God and man whereby man is what? There is no other no other mediator between man and God except Jehovah. Jesus Christ. Okay. Jesus means what? What?
He shall become.
Jesus. Jesus means Jehovah saves. The one who shall become saves. Beautiful. One who shall become saved. Where was the Jehovah title fulfilled? John 1:14. Who can quote that for me in Greek? Kai logos sarxaganato. And the Jehovah, the Word, that's what we're talking about here. Hadavar, hologos, and the Word, sarx, flesh, carne, Latin, basar, Hebrew, flesh, eganato, now conjugate eganato. Come on, who can do that? Third person singular, second aorist, and what's a mode that says absolute fact? Indicative, and what voice? In the middle voice. And the Jehovah flesh he became for himself. Beautiful. God let himself out of eternity into space and time in the person of Jesus Christ. This is a covenant God that we're talking about here tonight, the covenant God Jehovah. And it always says Jehovah Elohim, Hadavar Elohim. Et. What does et mean? Sign of direct object. Page what? 84 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. Give me the grammatical idea of et and also ace, the Greek equivalent of it.
Extension or limitation of thought and recollection.
Extension or limitation of thought or verbal action. You people out there in radio land and computer land, do you see how far behind you are? You can catch up too. You'll be just like these guys right here if they keep on listening. All of a sudden they'll say, I know that. I know that. I know that. I know that. As you go. Ha-Adam. Ha-Adam. Et ha-Adam. And he took Jehovah Elohim et, sign of direct object, ha-Adam, the Adam, which means the head of what? Adam comes from what is the root word of Dam, of Adam. Dam, which means blood. God created man. He created him in his shadow-casting likeness, in his blood-flowing likeness, and in his sovereign likeness. And he formed him as he formed the dust of the ground, and he breathed into him what? The breathings, plural, of lives. And where is the life? In the blood. He breathed into him blood. God's blood went into him. God's blood went into the whole human race, and then it got infected. Jesus' blood was not infected. See, Jesus' blood came from God again. The second Adam, we have the first Adam, that is the author of death in the human race. The second Adam is the author of life. The first Adam was the author of death, as in one blood, all die, all are made. And then in the second Adam, we have life. He is the giver of life. He is the giver of life. Elohim et ha-Adam, and the Adam. And let's look at this one. Why-ya-ni-chi-hu. Say that with me now. Why-ya-ni-chi-hu. And now let's conjugate it. Conjugate it. Who can conjugate that verb for me? Who can read out and tell me what that is? Brother Abe, you looking there? Can you conjugate that verb for me? Tell me about it. We're going to go in person first. It's third person, masculine, singular. Now what else is it? Hiphil, wow, consecutive, and perfect. All right. Now let's go look at Hiphil. Back over yonder here. Let's look at this verb tense for a minute, and let's see what Hiphil is. If you want to go to Kyle M. Yates' Essentials of Biblical Hebrew, we're not talking about modern Hebrew, Biblical Hebrew, on page 48 and 49 it tells you this. And the Hiphil, all right, is a causative active. All right? Causative active. Hiphil. So this is the Hiphil stem. And let's look at that now. And he calls to lay him down. And he calls to have him laid down. Hiphil, wow, consecutive, and perfect. Tell me about wow, consecutive, and perfect. Wow, consecutive, and perfect. What about that one? Pamela. Wow, consecutive, and perfect. Brother Abe. I'm not going to let you just sit there and look at me. See? Brother Roger.
So it happened and it continued to happen.
It happened and it continued to happen while consecutive. It is Hiphil, but it's while consecutive and perfect. That kind of adds an explanation of that verb action. Remember, Hebrew is a language of action. Okay? Does it mean more to you when you look at it like this than just looking at it in English? Boy, English is absolutely drab and just anemic compared to, and the same thing in Greek. It's anemic. Okay? The Bible is anemic without looking at it in these language. I believe the Bible is inspired in tense mode and voice, and declined in nominative, genitive, object, locative, instrumental, dative, accusative, and vocative. Tense mode and voice, and even definite articles, and all the prepositions and adverbs, as we'll see, without doubt. Beautiful. And it's something, every one of those little things that I just mentioned are very important for your interpretation of this. Okay? Actually, not interpretation, but what? Translation. We have too many interpretations. We need a translation. There's a difference between interpreting and translating it, isn't it? Okay. Let's go on. And he calls to let him down. to lay him down. And then we got vegan. Okay, what is a vegan today? What's a vegan today? Huh?
One who eats vegetables only.
One that eats vegetables.
Non-meat eater.
A person that won't eat meat. It's against their thoughts and religion and everything else. That's a vegan. Okay? Now, where did that come from? That term today come from? Where did it come from? Where do you think it came from?
Old Testament.
Right here, in this verse right here. This is the place. Genesis 2:15. Right there is where vegan came from, because it's vegan there. Okay? Which means in the garden. It means a person that eats garden vegetables. And I'm sure they eat a bug now and then along with them vegetables, I can assure you. So they are getting a little protein. Occasionally. All right? Because, you know what did the Jews do? You're not supposed to eat bugs, are you?
No.
No, you could never be a motorcycle and be kosher. Yeah, yes, bugs in the mouth, you know. What did they do with their wine when they got ready to drink the wine? Before they drank their wine, what did they do to it? They took a cloth and drained the wine through the cloth and then into the cup, and they would drink it. Why? To get all the gnats out of it. Okay? That's why. Because the gnats were unclean. Okay. By the way, this is not a very good subject, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about gnats and worms and things like that. Okay? You know the common housefly, gnats, worms, bugs, cockroaches, everything you can think of. You know what they carry? They carry tapeworms in them and all types of rounds and bots and everything in their intestines. And when you eat one of them, you get worms. You get tapeworms, you get bots, and you get all that stuff. That's what they get them. You have to worm a chicken all the time, about every 3 or 4 months, because he's eating all those things. Because he gets all those things. I mean, turn him loose out there, and they'll eat all of those. They'll eat tarantulas. They'll eat snakes. They'll eat everything you can turn them loose on. I mean, I'm talking about real old chickens. You know, the real game chickens, the old English and stuff like that. They haven't. What? Fleas also have the same thing in them. Fleas carry the same thing. All the same thing. All these bugs carry all this. So God knew all this before they ever had microscopes, didn't they? Yeah. Knew all this before they had microscopes. So God telling, shouldn't be going out and eating worms and stuff like. You know, they're even selling worms now. People eat worms. They eat bugs. You can go buy candy with a bug in it. Just leave it alone. Yeah, leave them alone. Okay, just go on, just eat your candy without a bug, okay? Vegan. In garden. All right, this word garden. Got a little preposition on front of it, they. And right here, why is it a they? Why is it a V instead of a bath? Tell me that. Why is it a vegan? Come on, Roger. Because it doesn't have a doggish in it, does it? It doesn't have a doggish in it. So it's a va, a soft word, va. Okay? Vegan. Okay? In garden. Now this garden is a word for, in the Greek Septuagint is paradisos. Paradisos. Which comes from the Hebrew paradise, which comes from the Persian paradise, old languages, which means a guarded pleasure park. Did you hear that? A guarded pleasure park. So this garden is more than just a garden, but it's a guarded pleasure park that's planted to sustain life. This garden will sustain life. This garden in Eden means what? Eden. Sharon? Shine right now. Shine. Tell me all about it.
Dainties, luxury, delights.
All right. Dainties, luxury, delight. What does it mean? Sumptuous living. All right. Luxurious living. And what is the word in Hebrew that this comes, not in Hebrew, but in Greek, that explains this? He triphe, which means what? To live in luxury. We have several examples of this in the New Testament. Heikainaideatheke. All right, in the New Testament. By the way, if you look that up on 727 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs down there, it tells you a lot about this, but also cross-reference to Gesenius, and look at it in Kohler and Baumgartner, and also in Davidson. Davidson really is sharp too. Davidson's analytical. His lexicon is analytical. That's where you have the analytical. Have you got that one with you tonight, Pamela? Davidson? No. I know you have one. All right. And then in Eden, now we have the word liavada. 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 And the le on the front of that, many times a le on the front of a word does what to it, Brother Roger?
It's a preposition to.
It's a preposition, but here it's not a preposition.
Okay.
What does it mean?
Uh,
Here it is a different idea. It turns into a verb. And what is this verb? Decline this rascal for me. Okay. Not decline it, but conjugate it.
It's a rod.
Third person feminine singular. Cal infinitive. Infinitive. When you see a lameth on the front of a bird, sometimes it turns it into an infinitive. It can be a preposition, which means two or four, which is in what case? The 8 cases. In what case? The dative case. Nominative, genitive, oblative, locative, instrumental, dative, accusative, and vocative. Of those 8 cases, we transfer that from Greek, from the Koine and classical Greek, even into the Hebrew grammar. Most of your grammarians in Hebrew will do that. Modern Hebrew doesn't do that at all. They just don't know that. They're studying the language as a conversational language as modern Hebrew. This is biblical Hebrew. This is different. I had a guy one time write me a letter when I started teaching Hebrew, and he said, "I never heard this stuff before, and I have taken modern, I have taken Hebrew, all this kind of stuff, and I've never heard the things you did." I said, "Just hang on for a little while. You might learn something." It's not in modern Hebrew, is it, Brother Roger? It's not there. They don't have this. You go back and you study the classical Hebrew works from the classical Hebrew Bible, okay? And almost every one of them will know Greek and Hebrew, and Latin, and a little German too, okay? Might even know, not even get one in English now and then. All right. All right, in the garden, and let her down in the garden, all right, of Eden, and let him work her. Let him protect her. Cal infinitive construct. Let him serve, protect, and maintain, and guard. Okay, you got all that? Why did he need to guard the garden?
From them bugs.
Because of what? Because of what? Why did Adam have to guard the garden? From what? From Satan. And what else?
From himself.
Sometimes we need to guard ourselves from ourselves. That's right, absolutely. Why did he need to guard it from Satan and what? All of the demonic forces and all of the angelic forces. Remember, Eden is what? The throne room. Thank you very much. A+. Throne room. That's the throne room. It was the throne room of Lucifer, and now it's the throne room of Adam, and he's supposed to guard it, and he's supposed to rule it. Rule. And that rule doesn't mean to lord over, but it means what? To administrate it. To administrate the earth for God's glory. This earth isn't here for your glory or whatever you can get out of it. Nothing. Brother Abe brought a real good little thing. That was wonderful today. The way you did that this morning was wonderful, Abe. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Every song he sang, he'd speak for about 15 or 20 seconds and tell us about it. Told us about it. It's not people love and lust after things. God put man in the garden not to build an empire, but to protect it. When the white man came to the American continents, they came over here, and all these Indians over here were what we call communists or socialists. They took care of each other, okay? Nobody held anything in private at all. It was the tribes. It was theirs. My grandfather, Sam Paul, was murdered in December the 19th, 1891, because he was trying to tell the Chickasaw Nation that they better give up their old ways because the white man wasn't going to let them be the way they were. He was going to make them change. And he said, they're going to take your land from you that we have here, which they already stole half of it. They took all of it all from the Midwest this way in the East Coast and stuck them in Indian territory, which they had carved a paradise out of. It found out it wasn't so bad after all. But then the white man wanted that too. Now he said, if you don't break what we believe and holding everything in common, and I know you're going to say that I'm against God and against the way God created things, but he said, we got to do it before they do it. He said, if they do it, you know what's going to happen? They're going to get 90% and we get 10% and only get to keep 3% of that. And he won the election as the head chief of the whole Chickasaw Nation. And you know what the United States government did? The Chickasaws disfranchised his voters. They wouldn't let them because they were part white. Had to be full blood to vote. You couldn't be married in the tribe. You had to be a full blood. You had to be that part of the tribe. You know, you had to be a full blood, what they call a fallback, or someone that stands for the nation, for the whole republic. Okay? And he said, we got to do it. If we don't do it, they will do it for us and we'll lose everything they got. The United States government sided on the side of those fullbacks because they know they could cut their throats so easily because they were so naive.
What year was this?
So naive. December the 19th, 1891. He was trying to circumvent the Dawes Act, which was getting later. The Dawes Act nullified all treaties. My grandfather, my great-grandfather on my mother's side was full-blood Cherokee. He had been moved from Arkansas into Indian Territory. He had built him a dairy and a ranch and everything. And in 1905, when the Dawes Act was supplemented or implemented, they killed him because he wouldn't sign the Dawes Act and he wouldn't take another piece of land. They wanted to change his allocation. My family, the Pauls, had 5,200. The Pauls, McClures, and Waits had 5,200 acres under fence. This is fenced. This is cultivated land. They lost it all in the Dawes Act because they wouldn't listen to Sam Paul. Sam Paul, Oklahoma would still be in Indian Territory if they'd listened to Sam Paul. But they didn't. It changed. Man was created to administrate God's world. When the white man came to this country, they wanted to buy land, and the Indians laughed at them. Who would buy land? How in the world is a man going to own land? How long does a man last?
Not very long.
Yeah, 50, 60 years back then, he's gone. Poof. Breathes out his last breath. And you're going to own something? Land? Land owns you. You don't own it. You don't own anything. So they laughed at him and sold him Rhode Island, you know, and Manhattan, and all this for a few beads and everything, because they said, well, these guys are going to die in a little while and go back to the Indians. They didn't understand how they worked. Okay. Now, he's going to guard this garden. He's going to protect it. He's going to guard it. This beautiful place called Delight. And to work and protect her. And to guard her. Yulishamera. To guard her. Now, to guard in Greek is what? Who knows that word? Terrain. Terrain. Matthew 28:18-20. The King James says, go ye therefore. The Bible says, the Greek says, after you've been cast out, make disciples. Not go ye therefore is not the command. That's not the commission, but make disciples after you've been run off out here. Wherever you've been scattered, make disciples. And then it says, doing what? Teaching them, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to terrain, to guard with their life. Comes from terio. To guard with their life all things that I have commanded you. And that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to guard with his life. Guard with his life. And woman wasn't involved here yet, was he? All right, let's go on and look. To keep her, to guard her. We're going to guard God's paradise from all of Satan and all of his partners. Bodyguard. A bodyguard. 2:16 now. White Sov. White Sov. Okay, it's got a TS sound in it. Why Sov. Why Yithov. Ha the var. You guys following me here? Elohim. Al. Ha-Adam. Limor. Mikol. Etz. Hagan. Akol. Tachel. All right, let's go look at this one. Wayithav. 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 Now, Brother Roger,
Yes.
conjugate that for me.
So it's third person masculine singular, and it's PL with while consecutive and perfect.
All right, now I want you to translate that for me.
So with great force, he commanded and continued to command
In charge.
and charge.
Okay. Jehovah. This is who doing it? Jehovah Elohim.
Jehovah Elohim.
All right, this is talking about Jehovah Elohim, all right? He, Jehovah Elohim, continued to charge and command. All is what? All is what? All. What is that thing? All. That's an ayin lamet. Okay? What is that? Sharon, what kind of a word is that? The Greek equivalent is epi, page 153 and 154. In the analytical Greek lexicon, epi, if you want to write that down there. I don't have it written down there either.
Is that called inclusive, everything?
No. What is it? It's called a preposition. A preposition. And it's a preposition of place, by the way. A preposition of place. You want to write that down. Page 752 and 733 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. Okay? Ha is what?
Definite article.
Ha is the definite article. Okay. Ha Adam. The man, the Adam. Okay? Limor. Say that. Limor. Okay. And on the front of that is a lamet. And what is the root of it? What's the root of this word? Amer. Okay? So on the front of it, with that lamet on the front of it, what does that turn that into, Brother Roger?
An infinitive.
An infinitive. And what do we have here? Conjugate that for me, Sharon. Lemor.
What would be to say?
Well, yeah, but conjugate it. You don't have to translate it yet. Conjugate it. What is it? Cal, infinitive construct. Cal, infinitive construct. And which means to be saying. All right, to be saying. To be saying from, look at that, mikol, mikol. Now that cough in there, it's got a doggish in the middle of it. And what does that doggish do to it here? It doesn't make it hard, but it what? It doubles it. So what we got is M-I-K-K-O-L, mikol. And the mem in front of it is a what?
Another preposition.
Another preposition. The whole preposition is ma, okay? And that's on page 580 if you want to look that one up in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. And then we have call, which means what? All. Call is all right? Okay, a little adjective there describing, a little noun adjective, a little substantive. From every, from all or every, etz. Etz is tree. Hagan. Hagan. What's Hagan? Ha, the garden. What's the garden? That's the paradise. That's the guarded pleasure park. Every tree of the garden, akol, eating. And this is cal infinitive absolute. Cal infinitive absolute. Comes from akol. That means to eat or to devour, or we have victuals. for victuals, for eating. Okay? To be eating. And then we have ta-chel. Ta-chel. Ta-chel, second person, masculine singular, cal imperfect. You shall keep on eating. From every tree of the garden you shall keep on eating. Verse number 17 now. 17. 17. 2:17. Dying you shall die. Yume'etz. Ha-da'ath. To. Vara. Lo. Takol. Memenu. Ki. Bayom. A-chalika. Memenu. Moth. Tamut. All right, let's go back and look at this one. Now tell me about this word, this first word here. Brother Abe, tell me about that word. This is a compound word made up of what? What's this made up of? All right, it's made up of a conjunction and a preposition and a noun. Now tell me about it. Can you tell me anything about that, Brother Abe? What's the first word there? It's you, and that is a what? That's a vowel, but with that dot in the middle of it makes it a U, doesn't it? You, me, ets. What about it? You. What's that one? That's a conjunction. Okay, page 253 if you want to write that one down. All right, 253 is that conjunction. And then we have mem, which is a preposition, and that's on page 580. And then we have the word etz there, which is a tree, which is a noun, which is on page 781, if you want to write all this stuff down now, okay? All right. The tree of the knowing. The knowing. Ha-da'ath. The knowing. The knowing. Of knowledge. Knowing. What would that be in Greek? Huh? Gnosko or nosko. We get a word knowledge right out of that, or to know. And then we have the word tov. 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 What's tov mean? Good. Pure, good. It's kalos in Greek, or what's the other word in Greek? Kalos and agathos. Agathos, which means what? Spiritually good. Okay. Agathos means spiritually good. Kalos just means good. Okay. And here I think the really Greek equivalent to it should be agathos. Okay. Vara. 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 That means and evil. And evil. What does the word evil mean? In Hebrew, arum. 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 Genesis 3, we see it what? Naked, wicked, deceitful, corrupt, lie, cheat, steal, murder. That's all that is in that. They were going to learn how to lie, cheat, steal, and murder, and murder, and blame shift. The devil made me do it. My wife did it. All of this, blame shifting, okay? And from the tree of good and evil. Spiritually good there, tov, and evil. Now we have a little adverb of negation next. And what is that word? That's lo, isn't it? Okay. What would be the adverb of negation in Greek? What would that be? Uk. Uk. All right. And what's the particle of negation in Greek? May. Okay, this is adverb here, though. This means notly, by the way. If you translate it in English, notly, actively not. Do not do this. Notly, do not do this. Not, actively not Don't do it in an active sense. Continually don't do this. And then we have the word takal. Takal. Now conjugate that word for me. Anybody conjugate that? Brother Abe, you ready? Are you able to conjugate these yet? Can you read that, what it says down below there?
Second person, masculine singular, car, empty.
Imperfect. Second person masculine singular, cal, imperfect. And not, you shall keep on eating. Stick to it. Stick to your diet. When you have a diet, you know what? You don't have any days off on the diet, do you? No days off on a diet. You have to stick to the diet. If you stick to the diet, you do that every day. It becomes part of your life. And Adam was supposed to stick to his diet. He got to eat everything. He got a seafood diet. What was it? Everything you see, eat except that tree. Don't touch that tree. Don't you eat from it. It's mine. That's God's property. This was God's property, and it was out there. They could touch it, and this describes what? In the psychological realm, volition. And the moral realm, volition. And in the material realm, volition. Psychological, moral, and material realm, it was not theirs to touch. It was not theirs to... They could look at it over there. Look at it and don't what? You go in some of these stories, look at it, don't touch. Look, but don't touch. That's what they said. They could look at it all they wanted to, but no, touch it. It's God's. It's not yours. Don't do it. In many museums, it comes up here, please don't touch, don't handle, don't do this. Look at it only. Touch it with your eyes only. They had the ability to look at it, but don't touch it. It wasn't theirs to touch, was it? The tree of knowing good and evil, and not you shall keep on eating. Mimenu. Tell me about that word there, Brother Roger. Mimenu.
Starts with a preposition.
Starts with preposition men, that's 580.
And, so it's
Menu.
third person,
Mhm.
masculine, feminine,
Uh-huh.
singular.
Third person, feminine, singular. Okay. Don't eat from her. Key. What's this word key there? That's on page 481, Brown Driver and Briggs. What does key mean here? It means because. Because. In the process of. Because. Bayom. Bayom. That word yom is in there, page 400, and that's got a baith on the front of it, which is what?
Preposition.
Preposition. And that means in day. All right, it's not in the day, but in day. In day. You're eating. Achalika. Achalika. In the day of your eating. Here we have cal infinitive construct. Second person masculine singular. In day of your eating, from her, in the day of your eating from her, to be dying, miot, say miot, miot. To be dying, cal infinitive absolute, to be dying, page 559 is where that root is. All right, miot. You shall keep on dying. Second person masculine singular, cal imperfect. Now, he told him this before what? Before he had a little mama. Before he had a wife. This is when Adam and Eve were in one person. I can't explain that to you, but that's just the way it was. All the human race was in one individual, one person. Adam and Eve were both in that person, the whole human race. Now he's telling Adam this. Now Adam's alone. Okay? Adam's like God. He made him, he's masculine, isn't he? Okay? And then from Adam, he's going to do something. We're going to see that pretty soon. Okay? Wayomer. Hadabar. Elohim Lo Tov. Okay? Lo Tov. Ha Yoth. Hadam. Leva Do. Esev. Lo. Ezer. Ki Neg Do. Let's look at number 18 now. Wayomer. Conjugate that for me. Pamela. Okay, while construct imperfect, or while consecutive imperfect. And he said and kept on saying in third person masculine and singular, and he said and kept on saying who did this? Who's the person who did this? Jehovah Elohim. Jehovah is a covenant God of mankind. He's a covenant God. He's a redeemer. The one who shall become. Okay? Lo, adverb of negation, page 519. Lo, tov. Not good. To become, cal infinitive construct, to become the man. To his separation alone. To be alone. Lava do. To be alone. I shall make for him. I shall make. Cal first person construct singular. Cal imperfect. I shall make for him. Look at that, for him. That's a preposition with a third person masculine and singular suffix on it. Helper. Ezer. Aid, assistant. Comes from Azar. Aid or assistance. Page 740. To be his sexual counterpart. To be stationed in front of him. To be stationed in front of him and stand over against him. To be his physical and sexual and mental and spiritual counterpart. That's what it says. When you find yourself a husband or wife, you think about that. Yeah. You think about that.
I'm not telling my wife you said that.
You think about that. She's all of those things. He's all of those things.
My wife.
Counterpart sexually, spiritually, and mentally. Corresponding and standing against and to and for and propping him up.
That's where I have a prop right here.
To prop up. The woman is supposed to prop up the man. Right. She's supposed to facilitate him. Facilitate him. 218, and all of his spiritual, physical, and mental. Huh?
What's that stand over against that?
It means to literally be like this. Man and woman fit together. I don't have to tell you that.
I got that part.
Men and men don't fit together. Women and women don't fit together. Okay? The whole idea, now I'm going to tell you, the Hebrew has a lot of sexual connotations in it. And it means sexual, first of all, the sexual counterpart, the mental and the material and spiritual counterparts. They fit together. That's the idea of it. You understand that? Okay.
Okay.
219. You got it all?
I love you too.
219. Wayitzer, Hadavar, Elohim, men, Ha-Adamah, Kol, Shayat, Ha-Sedeh, Wiet, Kal, Oph, Hashemayim, Yahweh, El, Ha'adam, Lereoth, Ma, Yikra, Lo, we call, Asher, Yikra, Lo, Ha'adam, Nephish, Chaya, Hu, Shimo. Now let's look at this long verse here, and then we'll give up right here tonight. Wayitza, Wayitzer. Conjugate that one for me. Who can conjugate that? Can you do that, Pamela?
Third person in masculine singular, while consecutive.
Okay, Cal, while consecutive and perfect. Okay. Third person masculine singular. And he formed and kept on forming Jehovah God. As are from the same elements of, closely related to, okay, Ha'adamah, the ground. Why did not God create man from dust, as most translations say it? Because that man would have been cursed to begin with. But he wasn't cursed, was he? He was a primary creation up before the ground was cursed. It came from the same elements that man came from. Now man, in his facilitation, is going to redeem and protect and guard the universe, starting with the throne room in Eden, from Satan and all of his imps. Okay? Every beast of the prairie of the field. All right? Beast of the prairie and field. And so every wing flapper, every wombly, every wing flapper of the heavens. Okay? Now animals were not created for food, were they? No, they were not created for food. They were created to be companions. Sin calls cannibalism. Sin calls cannibalism. Okay? Not God. All right? Sin calls cannibalism. Cannibalistic and carnivorous behavior. Yahweh, and calls to come unto the man to see what? What? He shall call, he shall proclaim. Third person masculine singular, Cal, imperfect. He shall keep on proclaiming and calling to and all, which he might call from to the Adam. What he might call him, the Adam. Individuals of life, every one of them individual souls of life. These were all souls of life. Have you ever had a cat? Any of you ever had a cat? Have you ever watched the cat think? Think.
Oh, yeah.
All right. They can figure out some things, can't they? How about a dog? You ever had a dog think? Absolutely. You ever have a bird? Have you ever had a fish? How many of you had a pet fish? I have. I used to train them to do tricks. I remember when I had this little fish called Spot. He was a goldfish, plain old goldfish, feeder fish, and I rescued him, put him in this fountain. If you ever seen the fountain out in my backyard there, right out the backyard, I had it in the house where I lived, built this house, and I had a great big entrance room in it. And here Spot was in this deal, and when I'd walk in from work, Spot would stick his head plumb up out of the water, this going like this, wanting me to come by and touch him on the head. He wanted me to talk with him.
Did you ever get him to bark?
No, I didn't get him to bark. I got a dog. I got a pig to bark though. I had a pig that thought he was a dog, or she thought she was a dog, so she barked. All right, souls living, chaya. Now, animal life has souls. That's what the Bible says, isn't it? That's it. I don't care what your theology says, but they have souls. I don't know how far to go with that except they have souls. That's all I can tell you. Are they eternal? I don't know. Is it possible for them to be eternal and go to heaven?
Yes.
Sure. God has no problem with that. You think he can build a heaven big enough to hold them? Yeah. Are there horses in heaven?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. There are horses in heaven. Okay. That's it. There are horses in heaven. Okay. There's no dogs in heaven.
No dog in heaven.
That's what it says in the book of Revelation. But there it's not talking about dogs, is it? It's talking about male homosexual prostitutes. It's not saying dogs can't go to heaven, you know. It's saying that those people won't go to heaven. But the dogs will be there. The cats will be there. All of these things will be there. The lions will be there. What is a cat? It's a miniature lion, isn't it? If you have a cat, if it weighed 300 pounds, you'd be in trouble. It would be batting you around. That hog that I had was 1,100 pounds, old Wilbur. And you know what? She thought that I was still bigger than her because I used to carry her and give her a spanking when she was doing wrong. And so I got out there, and that pig would mind me, wouldn't it, Marilyn?
Yeah.
She thought I was bigger than her still. I never told her any different. I carried my stick out there, and I'd go do this. I said, "Go, Wilbur, go open the gate." She'd go open the gate, and go do this. We'll lope out there, take a walk, Wilbur, and she'd go do whatever. And I said, "Stay over there now. Come back, get in here. Go eat you some pecans." She'd go out there, and she'd pick those pecans up in her mouth, and she'd go. And you know how people eat sunflower seeds where they spit the shells out? That's the way she did with the pecans. Spit the shells out one side, and here come the pecans going. And they're spitting out the shells, is right and left. Take my shoe off and take off and run off with it, thinking, playing.
You got that pig?
That was that pig that I had.
You took that?
The pig did. Pig.
I said you still have it.
No, that pig died. She got old and died. I'd sit down there and start working on things. She'd take my shoe off and take off with it, wanting to play keep away. She watched me one time put a float on a water tank. That was the end of the situation. It's over with. I couldn't keep a float on it. And she had to stick her head underwater underneath this cage and stick up there and unscrew it with her nose, just like a ratchet. Take it right off and then go and click her mouth and show me that she had the float. I had to stop that situation. I just couldn't put a float in there anymore. The gate, she learned how to open the gate, so I had to put a latch on the other side of the gate so she couldn't get to it. She could figure all this stuff out. I used to teach mechanics. Do you know how many mechanics don't know the left hand from the right? You can't ever, some of them you can't teach which way right and left hand is. You know, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, okay? You know that old story? Yeah, I tell you, I was out doing something the other day, and I was trying to show a man, I was trying to get something, it was in the sink, in the motorhome. I went down there, he said, "You're going the wrong way," and I said, "I'm not going the wrong way." "Well, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey." I said, "Yeah, but you're looking upside down." "Look upside down." "Oh, yeah." Boy, you get underneath the car and do that. Some people just can't do that. I'll tell a little story. You remember the guy on radio every day, now I can't think of his name.
Paul Harvey?
No.
Here in Bakersfield?
Yeah, in Bakersfield. He's on the radio, Scott Cox. Scott Cox. I tried to teach him to be a mechanic. He never got lefty, loosey, and righty-tighty. Never did. Matter of fact, I had him out there sawing off stud bolts to put in pumps one time and motors. I went out there and he's doing this for about an hour. I went there and said, "What are you doing, Scott?" He said, "I can't get this thing to go." I said, "You got the hacksaw blade in backwards."
That's easy to do.
That's so easy to do. I said, "If you're going to do that, pull on it, don't push." Well, he took it out and turned it around, you know, and he burned his finger when he took it out because it was hotter than a firecracker. Yeah, just all these little simple things. Some people just can't do that. My stepfather, Dusty, he was raised on a farm with mules and oxen for stock. They farmed 1,200 acres, a whole section of land with stock, animals. And his father never could set the pitch on the plow. You had to unloosen it. He couldn't unloosen it. He couldn't figure out which way right and left was. He couldn't do it. He had to get his kids to learn to do that. And Dusty would come and show his dad. He'd set the plow for him because he couldn't set the plow. Couldn't loosen up the bolt to set the plow. He wasn't a mechanic. He wasn't a mechanic. Just wasn't. That pig was smarter than most mechanics I ever tried to teach. She saw me do it one time, and that's all it took. From then on, forget it. Individuals of life. And the Adam, the living, he told each one of them, he placed upon each one of them a name. Adam named all of the animals. According to the book of Enoch, God brought the flood because the Nephilim were cannibals. And they started eating up all the animal life on the earth. It began to be vampires and grabbing people and sucking their blood from their throats. And drinking the blood from animals. Drinking the blood from animals. If you go to Africa, you will see them with those cattle over there, and they'll have a cow out there, and they will tap that cow's jugular vein. They'll stick a hole in it and then drink the blood. Why aren't we supposed to drink blood? It's life of the animal, and not only that, what else? In that blood is every infectious thing, every disease that animal can have in it. All right. Double reasons. It represents life. In the wilderness, when Israel came into the promised land in the wilderness, or before they came into the promised land in the wilderness, before they came into the promised land, God would not allow any of those Jewish people to kill any animal for their home use alone. They couldn't do it. If they killed a sheep, a goat, a cow, or a bull, or anything away from that tabernacle, they were guilty of murder, and they would execute them. Because that animal's life had to be respected as an individual life, as a soul, and they brought it there and they humanely cut its throat and made sure that they honored its blood by burying its blood at a burial. That blood represented that animal. And then the pagans were drinking blood. They were drinking blood. They were drinking bloods of their victim. And all of the animals, they were drinking it. You know, Italians always have blood sausage. We do all of these weird things. Different. God would not allow any of the Israelis to neuter any of their animals. Did you know that? He would not allow them to neuter their animals because those animals had the right to reproduce and to have those feelings. So he would not allow them to do that. Of course, we do a lot of things today that's not according to the Word, don't we? A lot of things. If we didn't neuter some of these cats and dogs, we'd have millions of them. Yeah. But God said, don't do that back then. Don't do it. Bulls are a lot easier to manage when they're steers. Did you know that? God said, don't do that. If you had one that was really bad, you had to kill it. Okay? Or chain it up, or tie it up, or pin it up to where it wouldn't hurt other people until you could butcher it or whatever. And sometimes if it was real mean, they wouldn't let them eat it at all. They had to kill it and burn it because it might have had rabies. Just might have had rabies, okay? All right. You have any questions before I turn you loose on the world? Did you learn something tonight? We went from 2:15 to 20, 2:15 to 2:19, didn't we?
I learned I'm not as smart as you thought I was.
You what?
I learned I'm not as smart as you thought I was.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I push my students to remember. I don't let you just sit there like
You'd be better
rocks.
putting behind the mules and plow with the fields and try to put me in front.
I keep you mentally involved in the class. And I try to get you to repeat something. We reviewed for the first part of the class, didn't we? How much of that did you know? Just about all of it, didn't you? Last week you didn't, did you? This week you did. Next week, do you know what? You're going to know a little bit more because we're going to review some of this and we're going to catch what you caught. We're going to find out what you remember and what you did. Let's have a word of prayer and go out there and do something. Sharon, would you mind coming up here and dismissing us in prayer, please?
Father, we we thank you for another wonderful lesson and so much to think about, and how you created us and how you allowed man to name the animals and the relationship between man and animals and man and God. And we thank you, Lord. And bless us as we go about our week, and may we always be mindful of you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right.